Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. This is the Snow Returns edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra and InForum.com, and it's coming back again and again and again, evidently this week. We're not even getting the hardest hit of it. When I saw it before I came down here into the studio, of crippling snow heading for the Twin Cities. Not ideal with what we have going on this week, namely the Minnesota Girls State Hockey Tournament heading for St. Paul beginning on Wednesday, which I believe teams are leaving today to make sure they can get there. We have North Dakota State basketball involved with playing St. Thomas this week. The men hosting St. Thomas on Thursday. The women supposed to head to St. Paul on Thursday. And as I was visiting yesterday up at the Benson Bunker Fieldhouse, the Summit League has already reached out to the affected schools to either prepare contingencies or contingencies are being prepared, however you want to interpret that. So we will keep you abreast of anything that comes down the pipe here as we're on the air for the next couple of hours. But Mother Nature ready to hit us again, which, if I remember right, this exact week last year we got nailed with stuff this time a year ago. So I guess maybe we shouldn't be too surprised by it, despite the fact that there is baseball teams assembling in Florida, and we'll be actually playing spring training games at the end of the week. Up here, we're still dealing with the heart of the snow. So get the snow blowers ready. I was ready to put mine away. Silly me on that one, but we still got more to do. So there's your weather forecast. Of course, download the Storm Tracker app. They're all over that. The roads are not great this morning, and it's going to blow a little bit. We're supposed to get more snow coming tonight, tomorrow, and into Thursday around here as well. So they'll have you completely up to date on all of that. InForum.com, and of course our news that comes up right after Hot Mike at 11 a.m. To give you the latest on what's going on there. Busy weekend. Congratulations to all the wrestlers that brought home state championships, both on the individual and the dual side. Great to see another state championship concluded. And real quick before we start our day, because I had a couple people reach out to me about this, the girls' state wrestling tournament, which I'm not going to say I was out in front first on this, but I was out early on it, is going to be huge, folks. For the second year, we had the individual portion on the girls. For the first time, we had the dual portion for girls, and it's only getting bigger. And from all intents and purposes, this is going to be a monster sport in this state, much like I thought was going to happen when it became sanctioned a couple years ago. Like we saw softball accelerate in record levels as teams were being added all over the state. You saw it happen here with wrestling, and it's awesome to see. It's well-deserved, and there are many more coming. It was a fun weekend to see that. So I wanted to make sure we saluted that before we started our show here today. That it's going to be a monster in this state, and it's already started there. And the fact, as you heard when Jeff Welsh was on our show from Grand Forks on Wednesday, that they used all 12 mats. Everything was buzzing. It was a great atmosphere once again. And who knows? Maybe they'll get to the point where they need another weekend to themselves. We're adding weekends all over the place, adding tournaments all over the place in the winter. Maybe that's we'll get to that spot in the not-too-distant future. But congratulations to especially the girls on a great weekend, and to everybody that brought home championships as the first winter sport has wrapped up for 2023. Boys hockey is next up, and we'll give you the full lowdown on that here in just a moment on what went down over the weekend as we figured out the 8 teams that'll be assembling in Grand Forks. And again, this is new this year because there is not a combined tournament for the first time in about 20 years. The boys and girls are separate. The boys go solo this week in Grand Forks, and then next week, the girls will have their tournament in Minot at the Mesa Arena, which we're going to check in that next week and on their preparations for that to go along with the girls' Class B, which is going on at the Minot State Dome. And the road to that begins today, which we'll chat about in just a little bit. But busy weekend, and I know there was football. I don't know how many watched the XFL. I found like 3 plays over the weekend. I was not invested in it. I'll be interested to see, as we talked about late last week, what the ratings are for these games, and they'll probably come in later today or tomorrow on what people watch. There were, as I mentioned, there were 2 games on ABC, 2 others on ESPN, so they certainly got exposed this weekend. I don't know if anybody watched. We'll find that out in the coming days. I did watch, though, the start of the NASCAR season yesterday, the Daytona 500. Of course, as many know that watch our show, my dad was there. He did not get on camera, despite what Jackman was hoping for. He kept asking where Grandpa was. Didn't get on TV. There was quite a few people there. And the end of the race was, I don't know if anticlimactic is the best way to describe it, but it was different. And for those that don't follow the sport, they want to make sure they finish under the green flag. And they had a couple more wrecks, as you see here, with 2 laps to go. There was a wreck here at the back end of the race because they want to go green, white, checkered. And here they're trying to race to the finish. And there's another crash where Ricky Stenhouse takes the lead there, passing Joey Logano. And then you see the wreck happen there. And then, to me, all hell breaks loose after that. It's the craziness of trying to race to the finish line. But since Stenhouse had the lead, he ends up winning at Daytona in a bizarre finish is the best way to describe it. I understand. They did this a few years ago, and Dad will be better to explain this when he joins us back again on Friday. It went to double overtime and finished under caution. It ended up going 212 laps, which, by the way, for those that don't know, it's a 200-lap race because it's a 2.5-mile track. And it ended up taking 530 miles to finally finish the race. But Stenhouse ended up winning it. And it's just... You want to finish under the green. No one wants to finish with that, but that's what goes into it when you have that kind of race at that track, that there's more often than not that you're going to get the big accident. It normally happens at the end of the race, and it did again yesterday, but Ricky Stenhouse ends up winning it. Guy who had not won in 5 years ends up winning his first Daytona 500. That was cool, and you see his reaction. And to see his reaction afterwards, that was pretty cool. And as Eric mentions to me, that he's into the NASCAR playoffs here already with the win at Daytona at the end of the season. So the racing season now is underway. And you saw that video. His dad was reminded me yesterday it was 75 degrees and sunny. Most of the time he was down there to rub in the fact of what we got coming here. So that was the other one of the 2 headline events yesterday. The other was the NBA All-Star Game. And before we show you what our guy Anthony Edwards did, this lamenting about, well, the All-Star Game isn't, none of them are. None of them are. We talked about this late last week. You know, the Pro Bowl changed up and went to flag football. I thought that was a neat idea because everybody always says the Pro Bowl is flag football, so why not go and do it? Hockey's All-Star Game has changed up so many things that it's hard to determine what it is. Baseball's All-Star Game put World Series home field advantage to try and spice it up. that worked. I don't know if it worked. They did it for 12 years, maybe longer. And the NBA's one, which people say, well, like when I was growing up, boy, it was intense and people played defense. And sure, they did, but it's not realistic for where we're at now. So when you see the highlights of the game last night and you see the score of the game, like, well, that's not basketball. Well, sure, it's not. It's a purely entertainment enterprise. And you got to see the best players in the world do what they do best. Not necessarily play defense, but some would argue that many that don't do that anyway in the NBA. It was entertaining. What the neat part about it to me was the actual draft part of it. That was entertaining. LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo were the captains, and they got to select who was on their team. And who did LeBron James pick first? The first guy he chose was our guy, Anthony Edwards. It tells you what LeBron thinks of the only guy who's played every game and leads the NBA in minutes. Now, again, you could say, you see that play there. There's no resistance offered. Okay. And this is what the game is. Again, the alley-oop there for the dunk. It's not your cup of tea. I understand. I don't blame you or lament that whatsoever because it's tough to stomach that. Edwards ended up finishing with 12 points in the game last night on 17 minutes. Jason Tatum went nuts. There's the game-winning shot from Damian Lillard as the Team Giannis beat Team LeBron 184 to 175. 184 to 175. In a not defensive-friendly kind of game. Jason Tatum, though, set an NBA record, scoring 55 points in the game, 28 of them in the third quarter, as he and his teammate Jaylen Brown were going at one another. And by the way, Brown was on the other team, which is entertaining. Brown finished with 35. Kyrie Irving had 32. Joel Embiid had 32. Donovan Mitchell had 40. I mean, again, it is what it is now. It's not a defensive masterpiece, but to me, it was cool to see Edwards go and do what he did last night and get the kind of respect that he did from LeBron. Goes to show you what kind of talent that the Timberwolves have. And despite the fact that they played a terrible game Thursday night against Washington, they are going to be fun to watch during the second half of the basketball season with still so much at stake and nothing secured, especially in the ultra-tight Western Conference. Before we wrap up our opening segment, we mentioned earlier that the 8 teams are now set for the North Dakota Boys Hockey Tournament, which will begin on Thursday, we believe, in Grand Forks. Again, I'll say this, that anytime anything has tried to creep up on the North Dakota High School Activities Association, they've knocked it out of the park in terms of there's nothing that can happen for them not to play. Whether it was COVID a couple years ago or even earlier this year, remember, we had a blizzard weather event that encapsulated the entire state, and we had teams leaving for Fargo and the Dakota Bowl, heck, on Tuesday to make sure they were here to play on Friday. So if there's anything like that, I'm sure everybody will be making their way to Grand Forks sooner than later. But the 8 teams are qualified. Some are the usual suspects. Grand Forks Red River is back as the top seed and defending champs. They'll get Jamestown in the first game coming up on Thursday afternoon. That'll lead us off at noon. Minot returns. Magicians have had a solid hockey program for the last decade. Of course, they won the championship. You'll remember in 2015. They'll face West Fargo Cheyenne. I want to highlight the Mustangs here. Last year, they broke through and made state for the first time. Now they're back. They beat Grand Forks Central again in the state qualifier game to reach state. There are a few things that surprise me anymore. That got me. I saw that score, and really, Cheyenne did it again. So Central not invited to the state hockey tournament for the second year in a row. That the Knights, who own this for the better part of a decade, miss out on state once again. Bismarck Legacy is there. They won the WDA tournament. They're the top seed. The Sabres, coached by Mario Lamoureux, will be on display in the first game of the night session at 5:30 against Fargo-Davies. We're going to show you how the Eagles made state coming up in just a few minutes. That was entertaining. That's the first game of the night session. And then wrapped up with South Shanley taking on Century in the final game of the day, supposed to start about 8 o'clock up at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. And when these games begin, for the West, they will be fighting some history here because it has been ugly with a capital U at the state hockey tournament for the West here over the last handful of years. Not since 2019 has a Western team won an opening round game. That was Bismarck Century beating Red River in overtime. Remember that game at Shields Arena? Fun game there that the Patriots won 2-1. Since then, it has been a East whitewash. They have dominated here. Over the last 3 years, they have not lost a game in the opening round of the tournament. They are 12-0. 12-0. That's what the West has to reverse beginning on Thursday. And I don't know if they will. The East had a much stronger year, but that's what the West is going up against. It has been East heavy. And that's ironic after the West was starting to make some headway and some gains, I thought, in boys hockey in North Dakota. And then it has been shut down over the last 3 years. The West has not won a game against the East in the opening round. We'll ask about that coming up later on in our show. Fun guest lineup here as we have reached tourney season in full. Jeff Kolpack will be by in just a few minutes. We'll recap the weekend it was for Bison Athletics. Bison women got a much-needed sweep as they now sit in a tie for second with UND into the final week of the regular season. The Bison men split. They had a chance with Oral Roberts. We'll get into that coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, we'll welcome back Jason Brend to our show, head coach of the number one ranked Thompson girls basketball team. They open up postseason play today up at the Betty as the number one seed in Region 2, trying to make it back to the state girls basketball tournament in Minot this year. We'll get his thoughts about his team and also about this is the last go-around for Thompson in Class B. They will be a Class A team this time next year. We'll discuss that coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, we'll welcome back to our show Davies boys hockey head coach Nate Metcalf. The Eagles, we showed you, they are still playing, and how they are still playing is one of the more remarkable things you'll see. We'll do that coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more will fit in between now and 11 o'clock. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll salute the best of the weekend on a snowy Monday. We're back after this on Hot Mic on a President's Day on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. All right, welcome back, everybody, here on a Monday morning. Jeff Kolpack just around the bend. And so it begins this week for us. It actually started yesterday with a barrage of live sporting events. Yesterday we broadcasted the NDSU-SDSU wrestling duel. Heck of a match. If you missed it, you missed out, A, on an unbelievable atmosphere, which was great. Second, it was intense. Went right down to the last match, which is all you can ask for. So that started it. And then Thursday, it really gets going, weather pending, of course, of what we got going on. Because Thursday night, we've got the Bison men against St. Thomas on WDAY, which is pretty exciting. Not extra. We're on WDAY for a huge game for the Bison men, tied right now with St. Thomas for that third spot in the Summit League race on the men's side. And also, the state hockey tournament begins that day. We showed you the bracket. Of course, we will be your exclusive home for all the games, whether it's hockey or hoops, over the next 4 weeks, beginning Thursday afternoon, right here on WDAY Extra. We've got Hot Mic Thursday morning, and then at noon we drop the puck with the first game up in Grand Forks So noon and 2:30 on Extra, and then 5:30 and about 8 o'clock for the second game. That'll come up to wrap things up on Friday or Thursday. Then Friday, the semifinals, the consolation semis. We will stream those for you at InForum.com, WDAY Sports Plus tab at noon and 2:15. And then we hit the air for the championship semis at 5:30. Note the early start time, 5:30 on Friday for the semifinals. Those are on WDAY once again. And then, again, it's odd for me, so we're so used to having both the boys and the girls happening at the same time. But the championship is a 6:30 start, again on WDAY, statewide ABC, 6:30 Saturday night. The 5th and 3rd place games, will be able to stream those as well on WDAY Sports Plus, Inforum.com to find those games. So all the games that are being played at the Ralph, we will either stream it or televise them coming up starting on Thursday. Exciting for that. Excited for our on-air crew. A lot of new faces there for the state to get to know. They're going to do a great job. I'm really excited for them to sink their teeth into this over the next 4 weeks, and I know you'll enjoy what they have. So beyond that, we're doing this show every day. We're going to take this show on the road in a couple weeks. I don't even know if we're going to be in the studio for 1 week. We're going to be in Sioux Falls for a couple days. We're going to be up at the Shack for the State A basketball tournament. It's going to be a busy time, and it all begins basically last week, and we continue here because we got tournament games happening all over the state today. All right, let's do some best of the weekend here as we normally do each and every Monday. From that match yesterday, we had Michael Caliendo on the show last month when he beat Shane Griffith of Stanford, the number 2 ranked guy at 165 pounds, 2021 NCAA champion. If you've not seen this young man wrestle, he is the star of Bison Wrestling right now. Frantic is really, really good, but Caliendo is amazing. Yesterday, got a pin. You could see the place went nuts at the BBF, which, by the way, was a great setting for this. Caliendo is the guy that can make it to the NCAA podium. He's in a loaded weight class, as our good friend Jack Mon said yesterday on the air. But keep an eye on this as we get towards the Big 12 Wrestling Championships, which comes up in a couple weeks, and then NCAAs next month in Tulsa. This guy is a freak show. He and Jared Frantic both have the opportunity to do something special. The reaction was the best part to see that of what Caliendo did yesterday. So congratulations to him. Although the Bison ended up losing in their match 19-17 to the Jacks to prevent NDSU from getting a share of the Big 12 championship. And I had a couple of people say to me after the match, SDSU's got the Bison number now. It's not just football, not just basketball. They got them in wrestling here as well. SDSU's got the advantage. That's the one tweet. I'm sick and tired of losing to the Jackrabbits. That's what makes a good rivalry right now. SDSU's got the upper hand. We'll see. I have a feeling there's going to be a couple matchups in Sioux Falls between those two teams. From the golf course, Fargo's Tom Hoagie had a good weekend. After missing the cut at the Waste Management, he started the weekend just inside the top 10 at the Genesis Invitational being played at Riviera, and he was really good over the weekend. Eric, I sent you a new clip, so hopefully you got that. Pick it up here. This is opening shot of the day at the first hole on Saturday. Or second shot, excuse me. Gets it on the green. Gets a nice little curl here to get this closer to the hole. He would end up drilling this putt for eagle. Anytime you can start your day with an eagle, that's good stuff. He would end up making a few more birdies on his Saturday round and ended up starting the final round tied for 7th. Granted, he was 8 shots back of John Rahm and Max Homa, who were running away with this. He had this monster putt at the 14th hole yesterday, which is one of the harder holes on the golf course. He would cozy that one up, make a par. Hoagie finishes in a tie for 14th. More importantly, though, he zooms up 5 spots in the FedEx Cup rankings, going from 22nd to 17th. So it was a good weekend, made some good cash as well. The cash is irrelevant, which I know sounds ridiculous to say, but Where you want to be, obviously, is that top 30. And he's 17th now. Is a good finish. He's taking next week off, and then he's going to be back for the Bay Hill Invitational, which is a biggie, another big FedEx Cup point event in a couple weeks at Arnold Palmer's golf tournament in Florida. Lastly, for our best of the weekend, we go back to the EDC hockey tournament. Fargo Davies and Fargo North playing in a state qualifier game. Winner has their season continue. Loser is done. This was one of those games that would never end. Fabulous game where Davies took an early lead. North would respond in this game, and the game would go on and on and on into a fourth overtime. That was the game winner from Luke Lorenz at 7:55 of the fourth overtime to give Davies the win, 2-1 over North. Gavin Connor got the scoring started for the Spartans. Drew Albrecht tied it up for Davies in the second period. Then they played the third. They played overtime. They played a second overtime. They played a third overtime before Lorenz won it in the fourth overtime to send the Eagles off to state. That is a crippling way for North to lose in a fourth overtime. Congratulations to Davies. We mentioned we'll talk with head coach Nate Metcalf coming up here in just a few minutes. So those are our best of the weekend. Again, you can submit any nominees as well to our Hot Mike Twitter page at Hot Mike WDAY, or of course email us at dizzo@wday.com. We'll take a break. Jeff Kolpack around the bend to recap the weekend we saw from Bison Athletics and preview a huge week in Bison basketball. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this.
It's that time. An author,
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2, I forgot.
golfer,
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
and one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
There he is, folks. Jeff Kolpack joining us in studio each and every Monday to get our week started on the right foot.
Well, as the only sports writer and or sports columnist to win a first-place award.
Oh, here we are. Wow.
At the recent
Hey,
Minnesota
congratulations.
contest.
That's good stuff,
I
Matt.
appreciate you having me.
Yeah. You brought up an interesting topic that... Yeah, there you go.
You're only 3 weeks late, but got to drag it out of you.
We were at the wrestling match yesterday, and you asked me, should NDSU permanently have all of its matches over at the BBF? So they had to put signs on the windows, sold out, can't get in. They had over 200 people in standing room yesterday. Now, they didn't have the normal seating like they do for volleyball, but that was an awesome atmosphere. There was nothing about that wasn't really cool yesterday.
Do you think the fire marshal would approve of what went on?
I'm looking over to my left, right, and I'm seeing 3 deep of people standing. I'm like, wow, this is pretty good.
And the question is, should they have every match there? And ideally, yes, in an atmospheric
oh, man, that was
sense.
great.
But then now that's NDSU's volleyball home. That is their home. They have locker room facilities. They have coaches' offices. If you were to make that NDSU's wrestling home, I don't know how that would work out.
Oh, boy.
I mean, because a lot of money was spent on the volleyball program, and rightfully so, to make that their home. And that's their home.
And they already shared it with women's basketball when the Shack was being renovated in the first place.
So I don't know how you'd put locker room facilities.
I don't know either.
Practice. NDSU's practice. I suppose they could practice at the Shack, where they have a really nice.
They have the
facility.
wrestling room is really nice. Yep.
And if you could just have your matches there, I don't know. That's for the administration to decide.
I will say, if you were to watch that on television, and I had people say, boy, that seemed like a great atmosphere watching yesterday, and many that were there say it was people right on top of the match. It ended up being a fantastic duel that ended up playing out. Couldn't ask for a better atmosphere. That was pretty good to me.
And they had people on top of us.
Yeah.
I had kids, I had knees in the back of my chair. People breathing down.
Yeah, right. I was wondering if I said something wrong, was I going to get harangued by somebody
well,
behind
I'm
me?
cranking my story during the match like I was doing. And I'm sure the kid right there is like following along, watching my story and going, hey, you misspelled a word.
What the hell is this guy writing?
Yeah, what is that gobbledygook on the...
How about this, though? South Dakota State has now beaten the Bison in football twice. They've obviously won in basketball, now in wrestling.
When's the last time NDSU beat South Dakota State in anything?
That's right now. Baseball, I want to say.
Softball is gone.
Softball
SDSU's.
switched. Yep. Baseball. The Bison got the Jacks at the Summer League tournament last year to eliminate them. That might be the last.
And baseball.
Right. That might be the last one here. It's gone.
Why is that happening?
It's a good question. It was asked to me this morning. What's going on here? So, yeah, right.
Oh, basketball won home.
The Bison men beat the Jacks in Fargo. I'd
Duly
like to
corrected.
I'd like to see what happens when we get to. I think there's going to be at least one matchup, potentially two, in Sioux Falls, which will be decidedly road games, by the way, for both Bison basketball teams if it ends up coming to pass. But is it just the way the rivalries go now?
Is it the ebb and flow?
The Bison had that way for a while. I would certainly say on SDSU and women's basketball, they just had better players. Men's basketball, there haven't been any blowouts. They've been all tight games. I mean, they've all been decided by 10 points or less over the last 5 years.
In wrestling, the border bell is now 5-5. The Dakota marker, I believe, is even too.
Correct. After the Jacks have won it now the last few in a row. So, something to watch. I'm sure Bison fans are waking up this morning sick of seeing SDSU beating them in any sport, which, by the way, is awesome. That's what fuels something really good. I mean, UND doesn't have that. UND hasn't beaten the Bison in basketball, in men's basketball. Women's split this year, and certainly in football, it hasn't been close yet. That's why.
Oh, it's been close. It was close up there 2 years ago.
Yeah. If the Bison
16-10.
didn't play a great game in that. But you know what I'm saying, though? I mean, still, in Division I, it still hasn't been. UND hasn't threatened yet outside of that one game in Grand Forks. We'll see in 2023.
And plus, you and I have the nickel trophy, so there's really nothing to contend for.
I'll say this, though. It makes for a heck of an environment. Anytime that's the Jacks and the Bison, it's been dynamite. Speaking of which, I think Dave Richmond here this morning, how's he feeling about what happened this weekend? They got a split, but, boy, they had a chance Saturday night, Kolpack.
It was there for the taking. Yeah. We're looking at the Oral Roberts highlights there, and Oral Roberts got off to an incredible hot start, and you think, okay, this is going to be a 40-point game.
25-6.
But then they went cold. NDSU had chances at the end of the first half and certainly at the beginning of the second half to take advantage of an ORU scoring drought, and just they don't have enough offensive players. You know, they don't have enough.
They got that guy, and then nobody else really helped him out on Saturday night. Nelson was a one-man show. I mean, at this point here, when Jakari White scores, it's a one-point game. Oral Roberts had yet to score in the second half. And then the Bison really just could not get any consistent shots outside of Nelson. Scunberg made one basket there, but it was there for the taking, like you said.
Yeah, I just don't think their young guys have developed into the scores that they hoped at this stage of the season.
Morgan is scuffling too. I don't know what's going on.
Kind of up and down.
Yeah, Morgan is it's been too inconsistent. And then you get that guy going. I mean, Asmus hits a huge shot. And at that point, I thought the game was over. They got up by 13, and it was pretty much over.
The second scoring threat is Bowden Scunberg.
Yes.
And I think his role more is he's a great defensive player. He's that veteran guy, that work hard guy, that motivational guy. I don't know if he needs to be that scoring. I think they're hoping like again, some of these other freshmen would develop into the smooth scoring threat.
Yeah, Javis Miller had a tough night and that's as you well know, that's the hardest environment next to Brookings to play in. Or you finished 16-0 at home this season. So they did what they needed to do, Kolpack. They got the win at Kansas City. That was huge considering what is ahead of them with 2 home games left. Because now as we start this week, they are tied for third with St. Thomas, who's coming here. Who would have thought this would be a monstrous game as it will be on Thursday night inside the Shack? That basically is for third place in the Summit League.
And like we said, you want to South Dakota State's going to get the 2, and you need to get that 3 to I don't know what's better, facing ORU or facing SDSU, and you know they're both equally tough.
Both tough, and it's certainly that semifinal game. It ends up coming to pass. These are the up-to-date standings here, and the Bison have Western coming in on Saturday. The Leathernecks are trending in the wrong direction. And by the way, how about UND? UND getting almost a road sweep. They lost by 3 in Tulsa, and they won in Kansas City on Saturday night. That suddenly UND is trending in a direction where they could get out of the play-in round.
Well, good coaching for Paul Sather to keep that thing going, and the players not quitting. I guess when you're low in the standings, you wonder
It'd be easy to
how engaged the players are.
No doubt about it. But they've righted the ship there. So to answer your question, I would say you got to take a crack at SD. You got to get them sometime. if you play them in the semis. But, boy, if they're able to get that game, and the Bison, what are the chances that Zeke Mayo is going to score 40 again, and the Bison shoot 60% and lose? I don't think there's very high on that. And if you get ORU again on a neutral floor, why not? Right?
That's why they call it the March thing. On the women's side, I would say South Dakota State is about as upset-proof as you can possibly be going into a Summit tournament.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is they're so good defensively. They're so big and athletic defensively that it almost makes you upset-proof. You can shoot okay and have off nights, but if you're always holding the other team, to nothing.
Right, in the 50s or the high 40s, I mean, teams are getting single-digit quarters regularly against SDSU. Who's going to beat that? I don't know. These are the up-to-date women's standings here. Again, the Bison have the inside track at the tiebreaker as long as South Dakota stays in the 4th spot, because NDSU swept USD, UND split with South Dakota. And by the way, the Coyotes lost at home to Denver on Saturday. So right now, it's worst it's going to be is the 3, I think, for the Bison, Jeff. If they get a split, they're guaranteed the 3rd spot.
But if you're talking about the tiebreaker, if ORU gets the 4th spot, because you'd be the record against the next team in the standings.
Right. And both UND and NDSU split with Oral Roberts. So then you go
to another tiebreaker.
If it's USD, then the Bison would have the
so
advantage.
they'd still
then.
have that.
So that's why that win Saturday was so monstrous for the Bison. And just a quick word on Oral Roberts on the women's side. That's 6 times this year they've given up 100 points.
Yeah, like
6.
I wrote in my story, not a whole lot of interest in playing defense there.
That was the opposite of what we saw Thursday, which was a rock fight against Kansas City. 103 points for the Bison on Saturday.
College basketball is, you got to be a good defensive team to win.
I would think so.
You just can't keep outscoring, trying to outscore teams. It's not Loyola Marymount here.
And it was... Or he was effective because Hannah Cooper, their best player, got fouled out of the game. Tirza Moore was, I think the Bison actually did a really good job on playing defense against her.
Foul trouble helped.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jory Collins said, she's maybe the best post player in the league. I would offer Maya Sellen probably at number 1. But
Heaven Hamlin would come down on a fast break and keep dribbling. Nobody pick her up. Nobody stop at inside the free throw line, and she'd be wide open.
Pull-up jumper.
Oh, hey.
Right.
Well, everybody else is like this.
I don't get it. But they got 2 road games. They got to go St. Thomas and Western Illinois. The Bison have struggled on the road. If you sweep this weekend, you get the 2 spot, and that would mean obviously an extra day off if you're able to win that first game. Also a guaranteed spot in the women's NIT. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for that program.
If I were a head college coach and I saw an opposing player just dribble down, and nobody picked her up, and she had an open 12-footer. No. Time out.
Something. Not good. Not good defensively there from the ORU ladies, but we'll see what happens in Sioux Falls. I honestly, right now, you hit the nail on the head. SDSU is about as upset-proof as you can get, especially with that environment. I don't know if anybody can beat
Maya
them.
Sallin could start with any team in the country dang near. I don't know about South Carolina and what they have for a starting 5.
Pretty good. But they played it. SDSU played toe-to-toe with South Carolina when they played earlier
I'll
this
put it this
season.
way. She could start for almost any Power 5.
I would agree with that. Let's break. We come back. College football is tinkering with potential timing
interesting
rules
stuff.
here.
You and I are differing on this, I believe.
Let's chat about that. We come back. A potential change to the clock in college football. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour here. Back with Jeff Kolpack.
The award-winning.
There's too many titles to get in. We only have a certain amount of time. All right? I'm trying to get the good stuff.
I'm just trying to match your ego. It's tough to do.
So, 2 things here. You obviously had quite the tie to hockey because your son Brant played high school hockey here in the state. I was talking about this. We got a couple of emails in about how the East is now dominating this. East has won every game at state over the last 3 years. Likely it's going to happen again on Thursday. I got a couple emails that say, well, wait a minute. None of the West teams that made state beat any of the East teams this year that made state. Could you seed it just top 8? How do you feel about that? North got left out
had a great year, but lost in the state qualifier game in 4 overtimes on Saturday.
Yeah, you could say right now North's the 5th best team in the state based on the tournament last week. How do I feel about that? The West was doing okay. They were making strides there for a while. I worked in Bismarck. Bismarck was getting some good players. Even during my son's years, they had some D1 guys. I mean, they were really good. And they've just taken a dive. I don't know what happened there. That Legacy's got a team now, so maybe that's further dispersed. I do know that, at least on the girls' side, they cut too early in Bismarck. They're cutting players too young.
Yeah.
And they're funneling and making the super team. And
the Blizzard, which were unreal for a while.
Which is really not good thing to do, because there's a lot of there's players that develop late in every sport. I don't know what you do. Do you go the Legion baseball route where everybody's one conference and then the top 8 from that conference makes state? Is there other sports that do that? I can't remember.
I don't not like that. No.
How many big schools? How many schools are playing hockey?
Almost all of them are, I believe. I don't think anybody isn't.
Yeah.
So I believe Minot North is going to play hockey too when they come in. Horace isn't right now.
But if you just see the top 8, then you're further leaving West teams out and preventing growth, I guess. I don't know.
You could say Shanley doesn't, but they co-op with South. And actually, what I hear is more Shanley kids play hockey than South
there's no
kids.
question. No question.
I mean, you could almost argue then Fargo-South isn't playing hockey.
I thought
right
we'd
now.
see Shanley on its own by now. I did. But then what do you do with South? Because if you put South with North and boys hockey, oh my God, the North side will just
I was gonna say,
go civil war on that.
Over? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's tough enough in girls with the North-South
split
Bruins.
there.
And you talk to anybody on the North side, that nickname is just, oh God.
They won last year, though. That still didn't calm anything over. Still not good.
The North side, it's its own little community up there, Dom. I've been adopted into it after growing up on the South Side, and I had to go through quite the initiation.
I was going to say, you've made it through that.
But if South went with North and boys,
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Article from Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated this morning caught my eye. Headline: College football executives considering 4 changes to shorten games. All right?
Yeah, I know.
Here is a couple non-controversial proposals, including prohibiting consecutive timeouts, i.e. icing the kickers. How do you feel about that? I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
Doesn't bug me.
Nope.
2, no longer extending a first or third quarter for an untimed down if the quarter ends on a defensive penalty.
That's fine. Yeah, save a couple minutes, sure.
The other 2 proposals are more significant. A third proposal that is garnering wide support: the clock will continue to run after an offense gains a first down, except inside of 2 minutes and a half. Okay, so this is almost the NFL rule. We're half and half there because the NFL doesn't stop at all on first downs. College football games are taking way too long.
Okay. Well, not way too long.
Way too long.
Dom, they're once a week. This is not baseball where you're playing every day and you got to shorten the game.
I've got some numbers for you, though. Average game duration in 2018 was 3 hours and 16 minutes. Now it's
What's
3
the hurry?
hours
Where are you going? It's Saturday
minutes.
afternoon. What's the hurry?
It's too long. They're 4-hour games.
You're just complaining because you don't have a hard edge to broadcast a game that long.
I'm telling you, that's way too long.
It's not way too long.
Way too long, especially in the era of no defense in FBS.
Okay,
football.
I'll counter, and I've seen this argument where if you're trying to shorten the plays, these teams that go up tempo, they'll go super duper up tempo, and you're not going to solve anything here.
Potentially, this is a television deal. I'm not going to lie about that. This is being pushed by TV, also because they know the playoff is coming.
Don't you want more commercial time?
They're going to add more. They're going to add more games, which again is bizarre to me. This would also affect FCS, by the way. It's not just FBS.
I mean, I can go with not stopping the clock after first down. I can get that. But the incomplete pass one, and you're going to get to that.
This is the last one.
That is total ridiculous.
So the fourth proposal out there.
Well, let's play a game in an hour and a half then. If you're playing a team that's all they do is throw.
Well, right. Any team in the Big Sky, right? The clock will continue to run after an incomplete pass once the ball is spotted for play.
Our pregame show will be longer.
I don't think that probably has a whole lot of chance of passing that fourth one. I think there's probably some momentum.
Maybe
for that third
how about
one
inside 3 minutes? Something. I mean, I 2 minutes.
They're taking too long. Even we had a game this year, a couple of FCS games that The Incarnate Word game took forever.
Well, you just walked into my argument, and all they threw an up-tempo. They'll go more up-tempo.
More in the article. Many of the proposed rule changes would bring college football in line with the NFL's own playing rules. The NFL does not allow coaches to use back-to-back timeouts and does not stop the clock after first downs are gained. However, the NFL does stop the clock after incomplete passes. Well, yeah, but that's a common thing where the ball is incomplete that you wouldn't run the clock. I wouldn't get that.
Well, no, once it's spotted. Incomplete pass, once it's spotted,
then the clock goes. Yeah.
A
running clock after a first down would eliminate about 7 to 9 plays per game. A running clock after an incomplete pass could eliminate more than twice that number. Wow.
In a low possession game that NDSU has played, you better make the most.
Deal.
You better make the most then of your drives, because if you have a couple 3 and outs and you're playing another running team, you may get only 5-6 possessions all game.
One last part of this. Game length is more of an FBS problem. It completely is. It's not an FCS problem. It is unclear if the clock rule changes would eventually be adopted by Division II and Division III, while under the Division I umbrella, FCS is expected to be impacted if the changes were approved.
Yeah, I don't know why you want it, because you can play 15, 16 games.
That would be – go ahead, Eric. You got game times on that. That would be – I'd be intrigued on how long some of those went, because there was a couple I know last year.
I mean, Bison fans will leave at halftime no matter what, whether it's 3:16 or 3:05 or whatever.
That the game is
the
done.
Longest
What do you
game
got
for NDSU was Incarnate Word in the semis.
Yep.
That was 3 hours 27 minutes.
That's
the average time looks to be about 2:45 for a game.
Okay, and that's where
2:45.
That's where I'm not complaining about FCS. It's FBS football that's way too long, way too long.
And we care about FBS because NDSU is going to be in the American Conference in 2 years.
3 hours and 27 minutes that Incarnate Word game was. Yes, that was interminably long.
But again, if you try to change it, they'll do whatever they can to run 80 plays.
Yeah, everybody will make a tweak there. I don't doubt that. I would bet that the rule change on the clock stopping or clock not stopping after first downs goes in. I don't see the incomplete pass one happening.
I think this is all about you just working too long.
That's clear. Always about me on that. Duh. I don't know. I'd be interested to see where this comes, but they likely are going to get a chance to vote on this sometime in this offseason. So once again,
why are games longer now?
TV commercials. Well, hello.
Okay, it has nothing to do with plays.
Well, it has something to do with the game is played. How many teams now run the ball? Not enough. That's why. If you're throwing the ball any time and you get a first down, game takes forever.
Well, maybe we should have a rule where you have to have a minimum number of rushing attempts. A ratio.
Now you're sounding like what baseball's doing. I don't want any part of that. Because it's what Major League Baseball's doing now is beyond dumb.
Oh, I got my opinions on that.
You got one for me before we go?
Well,
do you like any of them?
You know, the shift.
You like that one?
I'm split. But the problem is when they shift everybody to the right, it's like an unwritten rule for a guy not to bunt down the left field line. There's an unwritten rule that's cheap and you don't do that.
Go ahead and bunt away now.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's dumb. All the baseball things are dumb. Makes no sense. Great to see you, man. Thanks for coming
Good to
by.
see you.
Jeff Kolpack joining us each and every Monday. Of course, you'll have full Bison coverage on all the sports at InForum.com. You can check that out this week. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll start hour 2. It's tournament time in North Dakota. The region tournaments start all over in North Dakota for one last time in Class B. We'll discuss that when hour 2 begins right after this.
Hot Mike on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody, on this President's Day Monday. Hot Mike, WDAY Extra, InForum.com. In between, the snow coming. Apparently more to come as the week goes on. Get that Storm Tracker app handy for you because who knows if it's going to affect, hopefully it doesn't, any of the schedules that are set because it's a busy week that we have on tap here coming up over the next 5 to 6 days, which includes all over the state beginning today. Excuse me, the region girls basketball tournament's tipping off from Fargo all the way out to Newtown to determine who are going to be the 8 teams that go to Minot next week for the girls Class B basketball tournament. Our next guest is hoping he's going to get back there. His team has been synonymous with the girls Class B over the last decade plus. Jason Brend, head coach of the Thompson girls, number 1 ranked Thompson girls, good enough to get up with us here on a game day, as Thompson will play later today to open up the Region 2 tournament. Should I say Happy New Year, Merry Christmas? What's the appropriate greeting for you here today to start tournament play?
Happy President's Day. How about that? It's certainly an exciting day once tournament time comes.
And I don't know what's the right word, if it's bittersweet, if it's ambivalent, knowing this is it for Thompson in Class B for now. Obviously, you guys are moving up to the new Class A. Just give me your thoughts on, I know you're worried about, obviously, today, and hopefully you got 3 games in Minot next week, but knowing that this is going to look drastically different for you next year.
Yeah, it certainly is. Just looking at the 8 teams that have qualified for the Region 2 tournament here, there's 3 of them this year. So some names, but of course there's 5 others that aren't, and then there's 3 teams that got beat out in the region playing game that aren't as well. So it's certainly gonna be different, some different phases, some different teams, but we're excited about it. I think the crew did a nice job of making some changes and altering it a little bit to make it a little more feasible for everybody.
I know when we visited before Christmas, you weren't entirely on board. When you saw what the revised proposal is, was that more appealing for Thompson?
It was. Some shuffling. One thing that I really liked is they didn't have an even number of teams in every region just to make it geographically correct. I like that they made it a little more appeasable as far as transportation and travel-wise. They moved a couple. For example, rugby is closer to us than Belcourt and Turtle Mountain, but yet Turtle Mountain and Belcourt were in our region, and they shuffled that, and in doing so, then they have those region playing games where we cross region, which I thought that was kind of a cool idea as well.
Yeah, that will be really interesting. We get to this time next year where your season isn't done if you lose in the region championship game, which is a complete 180 of what you're experiencing this week.
It's different, it's typically what we've always known is you get to the region tournament, you lose, you're done, basically. Yeah. There's no tomorrow, and that gives you that opportunity to challenge, in a sense, some teams from the other region that maybe don't win that championship down in their region, and it should be a lot of fun. I mean, you could send 3 teams in your region to a state tournament, or you could just send 1, and I can see in time there's getting to be a lot of pride in that, and if say Region 2 sent 3 teams to the state tournament, we'd be pretty proud of that.
Well, and better than anybody, your own region, you guys in Grafton have been unbelievable. Hillsboro's had a couple good years. I mean, full well that in some years your region could have multiple representatives at state.
Yeah, we do. We feel like we've got some good teams. We feel we've got some really good teams this year as well, and not all of them are moving up. But, in the future, you look at that, like the teams you mentioned, and then if you look down in Region 1, with, Central Cass, Kindred, Crow, Wahpeton, Valley City, Northern Cass. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in there. So that both the region tournaments and then those challenge games, they should be some really great basketball and hopefully draw a lot of fans and have some fun with them.
Is there any sense of nostalgicness here? I'm making up a word. Nostalgia, Jason, about this week, knowing this is the last kind of go around with this? Or I know you're focused on, we got Hillsboro here today, and then we got another game tomorrow about taking care of business. But do you think that will come as this week goes on?
Yeah, it's so far not a whole lot. As I mentioned to you before we were on the air, the girls were over at my place last night, made a little team meal and played some games, just some things that we do. And, it was brought up about how just think, it could be different teams in the future that we're looking at. And we haven't talked or thought a whole lot about it yet, trying to focus in the now. But it's going to be different. I think before Christmas when we talked, I mentioned that I've got a lot of good friends at some of these schools that will no longer be playing. Right. And, not that you won't ever see them anymore, but not as often. And it's going to be different. This tournament time, will we have a different tournament director? We've had the same Patty Onenson for many years, and things like that. So there's certainly going to be some changes. I think we've kind of gotten to the point that we're excited about it more so than anything else, though.
How well you've played in the Betty. How excited are you for that to start here today? You've had some great success there. Is it not necessarily flipping on a switch, but saying, all right, we've been here before and we're familiar with about playing in this arena?
Yeah, we are excited. It's just getting to the regional tournament always, it's not a given. So it always brings out the best in kids, and we feel like since our last game, which was a week ago today, we feel like that our level of practices has really risen. I think the kids are really ready. You know, we've got kind of our tournament information, and we've got all of our little schematical things that we like to throw in this time of year in there. But, you know, we're just excited to go out there and play. Obviously, this time of year, you can't lay an egg, because if you don't bring your A game any night, you're going to get knocked out. And as we mentioned, still this year, you get beat, you're done. So kids are excited. You know, they're ready to elevate. Just last night, they seemed fairly loose, but yet determined. And, you know, anytime you get some hungry kids that are talented, you never know what can happen.
How big, Jason, was the win over Rugby? To get that one on your home floor, how important was that, especially late in the year?
That was big. That was a lot of fun. You know, it was a game that we needed that time of year. We kind of had a up and down schedule as far as opponents. You know, top end, like when I say top end, I should say state ranked teams, a lot of them, and then we had a few that weren't. So to get them in and to come at the time they did, we were happy with it. You know, we were excited that, you know, because we knew a week earlier Heidelbach, who's one of their better players, was injured, and we were excited that she was there full strength, so we were able to see them at their best. And you know, it's a confidence builder for the kids. You know, you play teams like that, and they're gonna expose some of your flaws and weaknesses, and they did. But still, you know, to come away with that, I thought we played a fairly clean game. Obviously, a little bit later, you know, we had that road bump against Mayport CG, but there's another really great basketball team.
Well, I look at who you played, and obviously you got Mayport in your own region. You played Kindred, you played Northern Cass, you played Central Cass, you played Kenmare to go along with Rugby, which I love that in both boys and girls Class B. You guys go and play everybody. Do you worry about that scheduling-wise for next year? Will you be able to still have that kind of competition level in the class above you now?
Yeah, I think so. I was talking with Brady Schwab, our athletic director, and our schedule doesn't change a whole heck of a lot. Some because we played a lot of those games here in the past. You know, a lot of those teams are moving with us. So, you know, Rugby and the Region 1 teams that we play. So doesn't change a whole lot. You know, we also have three Minnesota teams on our schedule that I believe we're going to be able to, you know, sustain. And you know, we go to Minot early in the year. I'm hoping that, you know, we could still keep like a Kenmare or some of these, you know, really high quality teams on the schedule. I know there's been talks already of adding Wahpeton and some different things as well, but I don't think our schedule is going to change a whole lot. I know there are a few of the teams that will be Class B that are going to maintain or stay on our schedule, and we're really happy about that too.
So a day like today, since you play the first game, is there an advantage, disadvantage of getting right there out of the chute? You like that or not so much?
I don't know. I guess I'd like to see that if you earn that top seed, I'd like to see it be a 6 o'clock game or something. But, you know, you get there and all you see are the Betty workers, and you don't have a game going before yours. So, but, you know, we're just happy to be playing. And you know, 3 o'clock game, be it as it will, we're going to go out there and, you know, we'll have to bring the energy ourselves. It maybe won't be quite as electric as it may be on even tomorrow night, but especially Thursday. Yeah. But, you know, we got to maintain we got to create that ourselves and make sure that we go out there and play with good basketball.
Now, do you sit back and enjoy the rest of the games after today, after you guys' game is done, or what's the normal plan for you on a day like today?
Yeah, it changes year to year. This year we're gonna stick around and watch the game after ours. Who hopefully I should say, I better put the cart before the horse, or the horse before I can here. But you know, a team that in theory we could be playing the next day, and then after that we're gonna shoot home, and after that it's up to the kids individually if you want to. I mean, that's one of the benefits of being so close to Grand Forks. You know, 7 miles we can zip up here if we want and watch those other games. And, you know, it's just an opportunity for the kids to rest up a little bit.
Now,
you know, I know that's the situation when you play that last game. It gets a little late.
Now, I don't want you to get too upset here. I had somebody literally, I'm not making this up, last week say, you know what, I went back and watched that 2019 Kindred Thompson game. It was one of the best games I've ever seen, which was a state semifinal game. Do you still get, I mean, it's 4 years ago, but do you still get asked about that one?
Sure do. Absolutely. Nobody more than you, but certainly do. You know, it was a great game. You know, we felt that we had a really good team that year. Obviously, Kindred was great that year, and you know, kind of went toe to toe with them there. We had a lead that, you know, they cut her back down, and I still think about Lucia hitting that shot with, you know, under, I forget what it was, under 10 seconds, and we felt like we had our best athlete with a little length defending her pretty darn well when she hit that. So, you know, it is what it is at this point. It was a tough one, but just the fact that we went toe to toe with them, and it was a lot of fun. And actually, one of our junior high coaches now played on that rugby team that ended up playing in the championship.
kidding.
So that kind of adds another element to the conversation as well when we get there.
All right, there's a moratorium on me for not asking that anymore. I will ask you this one, though, and I'm trying not to get you in trouble, but you obviously experienced what state was like at the Betty. Is there a preferred Class B girls venue you love to see that, especially now going forward, let's make sure that this is in the rotation almost permanently?
I love the Betty. I mean, I thought that was it's great. When we've been to state, we've been to Minot a couple times, Fargo a couple times, Grand Forks. And I just think that Betty is ideal. You feel like the fans are on top of you a little bit more. You pack the house. There's not quite as much of that open air, feel to it. But I know that'd be my favorite. As a player way back 100 years ago, I really loved going to Bismarck.
Yes.
But I know that can't happen with the WDA out there and such. But, I think anytime a team can qualify for a state tournament, they'll go wherever the heck they're told to go. But personally, I really do like the Betty. And that has nothing to do with it being in our backyard, as we like to hear. It's just because of the venue.
All right, I got to ask you this. I don't know if Sports Illustrated put a story out today about trying to make college football games shorter, FBS games. One of them is about, like in college football, they stop the clock after every first down. Now they would only stop it with only 2 minutes to go in the half. What do you make of that? Would that make it shorter in your mind?
That's interesting. I mean, is it necessary? I mean,
those FBS games are pretty long, man. I'll say that. Yeah. FBS games are okay, but those big boy games, at least in my mind, they take forever.
Yeah, they do. And you know me, I'm an FCS guy, so but yeah, maybe. I mean, what does that do for the quality of the game? And I mean, how about even just look at the TV end of it? Commercials and such. But whatever, I don't care, Tom.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I'm all for shortening games, just like now with baseball. I know they got the pitch clock and all that, but I don't know. I just feel like there's always something new coming every year.
It is. It's changing all the time, man. It just it goes back to our first part of our conversation. Exactly what's changing with Class B and Class A and now AA basketball to become a thing. It's great to catch up as always, man. Good luck here today, and hopefully we're chatting next week if your team is still playing, all right?
I hope so, Dom. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, man. There goes
Take
Jason
care.
Brend Thompson, girls basketball head coach. The Tommies open up the Region 2 tournament coming up later this afternoon. They'll take on Hillsborough Central Valley at the Betty, one of 4 games today going on there. The 2 seed is Grafton. The 3 seed is Mayport CG, who just beat Thompson last week. They had a squeaker with Grafton, so it'll be fun to see. The Region 1 tournament begins later this afternoon as well. That's being held at the Shack, and the days of that will actually go today, tomorrow, and then Friday. Friday is the Region Championship because the Bison men are playing there on Thursday. Central Cass is the number 1 seed there. Northern Cass is the 2. Kindred is the 3. People forget last year that Northern Cass beat Central Cass in the region semifinals to get to the region championship before Kindred ended up beating Northern Cass to go to state. It could be a Central Cass, Northern Cass rematch this time for the region title. If you missed our story on Haley Crockett last night from Northern Cass, we had that on Sports Sunday. You can check that out eventually at InForum.com. Good stuff. And we'll see who the 8 teams that are going to be lucky enough to get to Minot next week. We're overdue for a break. We'll take one now, get caught up on a couple of emails. Plenty have got some concerns about what college football wants to do. We'll get into that when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Welcome back, everybody. Here you see another squall coming through here. Going to do that for a bit this morning, early afternoon. There has been one tournament already affected by the weather, the Northern Sun basketball tournament, which begins this week with games on campus sites. Crookston and Southwest Minnesota State have already moved up their game to tomorrow, opening round game. And then that's on the women's side. 3 men's games have been moved. Minot State at Southwest, St. Cloud State at Sioux Falls, and Mankato and Duluth are all playing now tomorrow because of what is expected to come later in the week, especially around the Twin Cities. So those games have been moved up a day. So the top 2 seeds in each division get buys to Sioux Falls. The Dragon men were fortunate enough to get one of those buys, so they will not play. The Dragon men do not play until Sunday night. They'll play the winner of Sioux Falls and St. Cloud State down at the Pentagon. Remember, MSUM men are the reigning tournament champions of this event, winning it last year against Northern State. We could very well have a rematch there. Northern State won the outright league title, led by Justin Wick, former Dragon assistant. So that is always a fun tournament to see and play out, and looking forward to that. Concordia St. Paul, by the way, will play the Dragon women. That game is still slated for Wednesday. And as we mentioned off the top of the show, and you can see what's to come and hearing what the forecast could be for down in the Twin Cities and potentially around here, it could get nasty. And we will keep you abreast of anything that's potentially coming this way. Emails and tweets coming in about the college football potential changes here. I'm not a math genius, but if you wanted to shorten the game, couldn't you leave everything as it is? Just make the quarters shorter. And they're not going to mention. They're going to mess with that. On how long the game is. You're not making the TV timeouts any shorter. That's just a economic thing with how much that networks pay for college football. They got to make that money back somehow, which is obviously with advertising. They are not going to shorten any commercial breaks. And by the way, the one last part of this is really interesting from the Ross Dellinger story, which you can read at SI.com. Television commercials do not impact game time significantly. From 2018 to 2020, games not televised finished only about 2 minutes sooner than those televised. That's an interesting nugget. I think people probably have the misconception, well, there's 4.5 minutes of commercial breaks, but that they are long. I will say that. And you certainly know when you have a game on either ESPN or ABC, Bison fans will tell you that, even for the games that the Bison had on ESPN this year, or even, heck, that game on Fox, FS1, granted, it was started at 10 o'clock at night, so everything felt long and late. The breaks are certainly longer in FBS football than they are for FCS. But the one that will be the running the clock after an incomplete, that makes no sense to me. I don't like that one iota. I really hope that one gets shot out of a cannon and never heard from again. The first down one I can live with, but the point that gets me on this is because the amount of games being played and plays, it's like, because FBS now, with the expanded playoff, the teams could play 16 games in a season. And FCS Division II and Division III players are saying, cry me a river, because they've done that for years, and no one has said anything about shortening games or adjusting the rules to make it more palatable for them. I mean, routinely, North Dakota State has played 16 games in a season, or 15. This past year was another 15-game season for the Bison. When they get to next year in 2024, it's a 12-game regular season. If the Bison make Frisco, that's 16 games. That's an NFL, used to be an NFL season. Right now, in big boy football, you play 12 regular season games, okay? Then you play your conference championship. Then you play, if you're in the college football playoff semifinal, and then you play in the championship. That's 15. And that apparently is either too much on the body health-wise, too much academically for them to stomach, that it can't do it. Because now you're going to play 12 games, right? You're not losing a regular season game because there's too much money there. You're going to play 12 regular season games. Let's say you're a top 4 seed. So you play a quarterfinal game, 13. Oh, let's say you play a conference championship game still, 13. Quarterfinal game, 14. Semifinal game, 15. Championship game, 16. Hello, welcome to FCS football. I just, that argument holds no weight for me. And I am completely biased because I've covered this division since I've been here, and this is what routinely when you see teams play. I don't understand why the upper division has just
lost its mind that, oh, we can't play this many games. Oh, gosh, what will we do? I mean, give me a break on that. I just that, and especially for the FCS, they have less players available. Another common misconception here. They only have 63 scholarship guys. FBS could trot out 88 of them, if so choose. Just that to me, I don't get it. But I would imagine one of those will be, I imagine the two minor ones are going to get enacted about the no consecutive timeouts and the no one-time downs to end the first or the third quarter. I imagine you'll see those go into effect. I would, if I was a betting man, I would tell you probably that one rule on first downs, the clock keeps running outside of under 2 minutes. I would imagine that goes. I can't see the incomplete one happening. It would drastically affect the game, but we'll see. Everything in college football is drastically changing right in front of our eyes, so we'll follow that as well. We're due for a break. We'll take one now. We come back. We'll check in on one of the heroes of the weekend. The Davies boys hockey team had to go 4 overtimes to advance to the state tournament. We'll visit with head coach Nate Metcalf when Hot Mike returns on this Monday morning. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody, on a Monday morning. Hot Mike rolls on, WDAY Extra, InForum.com. Get set for one of the crazier weeks of the year. We've got the region girls basketball tournaments going on. We'll figure out the 8 teams that are going to state, and the boys state hockey tournament, which begins on Thursday up at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. Of course, you'll see all the games right here on WDAY Extra, as we'll bring you the quarterfinals on Thursday, the semifinals on WDAY on Friday night, and, of course, the championship on Saturday. Our next guest is hoping his team is playing all the way till Saturday night, and it took a while for them even to make state as we welcome on Davies boys hockey coach Nate Metcalf back to our show after the 4 overtime thriller as Davies knocked off Fargo North on Saturday. You've been in hockey all your life. What were the nerve levels like on Saturday for this one?
Control it. Yeah, it was crazy. I should have started out with thanks for having me, Don.
No problem, man. I want to. So when you get to a stage like, well, first off, what's the longest game you've ever played? When you were playing your playing days, you remember?
I know a 2 or 3 overtime.
Yeah.
I don't know if the structure is the same way we have it here, but this is probably the period 4th overtime. This is probably it.
So when does just adrenaline take over of your body that you're just so exhausted that is it the 2nd overtime, 3rd overtime? Where is that limit at?
Well, I think the way we were kind of rolling our lines, we had a lot of players in. They showed a lot of energy, through that first overtime. And probably when you hear that horn in the 2nd overtime is where you kind of start feeling drained and, head out for another one and, try to find that, lucky bounce or a hit or something that sparks and gets everyone going again.
So as a coach, how much are you even saying during the intermissions? Granted, you only have a couple because some of you are just coming right out and playing 8 minutes. So when they go and zam the ice, what are you telling the team?
Just relax and, and enjoy it and, just keep the game simple and short shifts, throw pucks at net. And, it's the winner's going to be a lucky bounce and most likely it is. And, fortunately we got a nice little break there.
So what did you see from Luke's goal? Where did you see it go in, and what was your immediate reaction after that?
I didn't. I think I was talking with some of the D-men, trying to get them amped up a little bit because, we're starting to get drained again towards the end of that one. And I heard kind of got quiet, and then just a big kind of storm on our bench, and I kind of looked up. I was like, whoa. So it's it was nice. I had to watch it yesterday to see how it actually went in.
That was my next question. So when you saw it, now that you watched the replay, what was your reaction then when you saw the game winner?
Well, coming in basically the whole game, let's just get pucks to the net, like I said, and sure enough, we got lucky to slide one underneath his pad, and through a couple of the overtimes, there's plays like that, and one or two times it got through them and hit a pipe or puck's just sitting there. So both teams kind of had plays like that, so we knew it was going to end like that, and yeah, I'm glad we won.
To have that kind of game, and you mentioned this off air before you came on, for both teams afterwards. I mean, I'm sure for Fargo North, they had to be. You can't. There's no consolation for them. There's no consoling them. Even for your guys, though, what was that like with both teams after the game was done on Saturday?
Well, in our locker room, we're pretty pumped there for a while, and once you go back in the locker room, kids start coming out. Everyone's a lot of our guys played with a lot of the North kids as well, and they're consoling each other and congratulating each other. And if you were just walking into the rink, and saw the group of kids talking, you wouldn't be able to tell who won the game. Like, it was literally everyone was gassed. 3.5 hours on the bench. I learned I can't stand for 3.5 hours, but still recovering. Yeah, so it's it's kind of one of those where it's everyone knows each other and played with each other, and it's a tough spot to be in.
Okay, so do you pace on the bench, or you pretty much stand still?
I do a lot of pacing and rocking, and I'm stretching back there, and I'm a fidgeter, so I'm constantly mints and gum. I almost ran through my pack of gum, so I don't know what was going to happen.
I was going to say, if you ran out of gum, what was next?
Yeah, I don't start grabbing Snickers bars in the next OT.
We were visiting Nate off air. Obviously, your team made it all the way to the state championship game last year. You lost a lot. What was the sense with this team about this year? Knowing, okay, maybe expectations aren't the same, but we want to be a good and consistent team. What was the conversation like about this club when the year got started?
Yeah, we'd like to have our kids play hard. That first and foremost, just 4 years I've been here, go hard and cause confusion and get pucks in that, and hopefully it goes in. Last year we lost. A lot of our goal scoring, our top goalie that played for 3 years, and a good chunk of our D. So expectations were, I guess, low, but I knew once we could find some identity, we could put it together and go on a run. We have a lot of good athletes and a lot of good competitors on the roster, so that helps.
And now you have more practice to do, man. You got a couple more days of practice. Tell me about that, about getting back out on the rink today and getting back out for practice this afternoon.
Yeah, it's we didn't play the best this weekend. We played hard, didn't really execute so well. So we have a good old practice plan put together here for the next couple of days. And our power plays kind of been up and down all year. And we had quite a few power plays on Saturday and, couldn't execute. So it's maybe back to the drawing board and, just a typical week. And, we're the underdogs now. So it's, last year we're kind of probably one of the favorites going into it. So this year the message is going to be just work hard and get bounces and throw it all out there.
Tell me about this matchup you have. You play the first of the late games at 5:30 on Thursday with Bismarck Legacy, who's getting to state. Obviously a new program there. What do you know about them and this matchup on Thursday night?
Yeah, we played them the last 2 years during the regular season. We played them, I think, in probably early December this year. I believe it was a 3-2 overtime game, I believe. So, they go hard. They have a couple high-end kids that can put the puck in the net. So, and a tremendous goalie. So, we'll see what we can do and try to disrupt their game.
Is there any this is almost a normal start time? You prefer that you're playing, I guess, quote unquote, close to normal rather than early in the day on Thursday, or does it not matter?
I don't think it matters. The benefit of getting the early game, starting a session, I think is probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
So you might run into a team playing 4 overtimes before you, and you get dressed, undressed, and dressed. So it's, but we'll, we got a spot in the tournament, and I think we'll take whatever we can get.
How hard do you go today, Nate? Do you not? I mean, just the guys are still recovering. Is this a pretty light day today, or are you going to go? Hey, we got to get ready for a game on Thursday.
No, this is going to be a work day for us. We've kind of been in playoff mode here for the last 3-4 weeks. Just trying to get a higher seeding and whatnot. So we're going to keep them going hard and just get that burnt into their brain that we're going hard every time we touch the ice. So.
Is it a challenge about playing at the Ralph just because of the different ice sheet there? Or what are the challenges? I know the guys are super pumped to play there, but is there a challenge to get ready for that?
No, I mean we practice on Shields Arena every day, so it's a little bit bigger venue. It's I don't know what the attendance is going to be like. Looks like another snowstorm coming in, so it should be a lot like we practice in every day. And I don't know a whole lot if any of these guys have actually played. I'm 100% sure none of them played a high school game with crowds, and maybe they played some in the youth, but I know in college and playing there, it's a great facility and great atmosphere. So hopefully people come out.
I am interested to get your thoughts. I was talking about this earlier that the East is dominated in this round. Since you've been head coach, the East has not lost in the quarterfinal round, and they're heavily favored, I think, again this year. Is it a trend right now? Is it something that you've seen definitively that the East is so much better than the West?
No, I don't. We played 3 of the 4 teams that are in the state tournament this year, and they were all, pretty close games. So I think it's, I don't know if they're just missing a piece or we catch them at the right time. I'm sure their travel probably doesn't help, their games throughout the year. But yeah, it's. I think these games will be closer than a lot of people are talking. Knock on wood. Hopefully, we get through ours.
Well, by the way, I should note that you also played an overtime game in the first round. So, I mean, just describe that you've been through the grinder, man, just over the last few days.
Yeah, it's been quite the week. That I believe is double overtime against Central on Tuesday, and then we ended up getting snowed in, so we stayed. Didn't get home till middle of the afternoon on Wednesday, and it's like every time the EDC comes up, some weather related issue, and I'm glad we didn't play Monday night like we did last year, but
that's right.
It was a little bit normal, but sitting back last night after following my kids around for the weekend, the rest of Saturday and Sunday, I was exhausted. It was a long week, and I'm ready to turn the page and kind of start over here.
All right, so just so I'm doing my math, then you played 15 periods of hockey then last week, right? Double overtime, a normal game, and then 7. My math is 15. That is a lot, man. That's a ton of hockey.
I'm going to try to push for 3-4 games a year next year during the regular season to prep for it. So we'll see what the ADs say.
Congratulations on the big win, man. Safe travels up to Grand Forks, and good luck later this week, okay?
All right, thank you.
Good to see you,
Thanks
bud.
for having me.
Nate Metcalf, head coach of the Davies boys hockey team. They match up with Bismarck Legacy, 5:30 on Thursday. That'll be the first of our night session games that you'll see live right here on WDAY Extra. The entire tournament you'll see either live on television or streamed to your home as we begin our 4-week, 6-tournament, 4-city journey. That begins on Thursday with the state hockey tournament up in Grand Forks. Good luck to Davies. That is a lot of hockey. Double overtime, snowed in, a normal regular game, and then 7 periods of hockey. That is a lot. We'll take our final break. We'll wrap things up, get you ready for a busy Sports Monday going on all across the state. We'll do that when Hot Mike wraps on a snowy Monday after this on the X at InForum.com. All right, wrapping up a busy Monday show. Busy week. We're going to have you fully covered, everything going on with hockey, the regional tournaments. As our good friend Stacey Anderson says, we'll feed the beast to get you ready for everything that's coming up this week. Of course, anything weather-related with sports, we will keep you updated on both on our newscast tonight at 6 and 10 and right here on Hot Mike back here tomorrow. We didn't get into the Wild. They won yesterday over Nashville, scored a goal with under 20 seconds to go to beat the Predators after they beat the Stars on Friday, won that game in a shootout. I watched the end of that. This was their first win in regulation in a month for Minnesota, and they will wrap up their 7-game homestand. They have to because the state hockey tournament is coming in, then the state wrestling tournament comes in, and then the boys state hockey tournament comes in over the next 3 weeks. So the Wild are going to be heading out on the road for basically the next month, as is wont to happen during this time of year. But right now, Colorado has the edge on them by 2 points in the division. The Avalanche have 67 points. The Wild have 65, but Minnesota has the final spot in the wild card right now with 65 points. So if the playoffs started today, I know everybody hates that, the Wild would be in. They're in a playoff spot right now, meaning they play Dallas in the first round in a best of 7. That probably wouldn't go so well. The Jets and the Avalanche are set to match up, and then it'd be Vegas against L.A., and then the Kraken against or Vegas against Edmonton, and the Kings against the Kraken would be the potential first-round matchups. There you have it on your screen on the Western Conference. The Wild will play the Kings coming up tomorrow night. You can see where L.A. is. They're fighting for the Pacific Division title with Las Vegas. So, and Seattle's right there, just a point back of them. So that will not be an easy game, and that's coming up tomorrow night. Also, we found out the seedings on the girls' state hockey tournament in Minnesota. Warroad is the 1 in Class A. They'll play Albert Lee. That's on Wednesday at 6. Furnace Falls made it back to state. First time in 4 years for the Otters. They'll get South St. Paul. That's the late game coming up on Wednesday night, probably about 8:30 at the X. In Double-A, the Spuds of the 5 seed, they will play Gentry Academy. That's the now private school basically built for hockey. Can I say that? I just did. So that'll be a tough game for the Spuds. But if they're able to get past that, they're likely getting Minnetonka in the semifinals. And there's no way that game, I'm going to tell you right now, is starting at 8 o'clock. That's at least 8:30 on Thursday night to see Moorhead play against Gentry Academy. Rosemount, you see, is there against Andover, and then Lakeville North against Edina. Those are the 8 teams in the Double-A. So the Spuds are going to have a challenge there and have to wait around all day and play the late game coming up on Thursday night at the state hockey tournament down at XL Energy Center. The opening round games are only streamed. I know I've got a couple questions about that already. For the girls, they are streamed only for the first round. Then the semifinals and the final are on television. So for those wondering, that's how that breaks out for the girls tournament. But you'll be able to watch the Spuds online beginning on Thursday night. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we get out of here on this President's Day Monday. If you're snowed in, you got some sports options here today, including the Golden Gophers. Minnesota's men's basketball season has certainly not gone the way they were hoping. And tonight they play a very good Illinois team in the Big Ten. As you look at the up-to-date standings in the Big Ten as you started this Monday morning, Minnesota is in last at 1-13. Illinois at 8-7 in the league. They're 17-9 overall. That's an 8 o'clock tip on the Big Ten Network. Really good women's basketball game tonight. UCLA and Stanford. Couple of ranked teams there, 8 o'clock on ESPN2. Both top 20 in the country. Pac-12's got some players out there. That's a fun one if you're looking for something tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN2. If you don't want to watch the Gophers get trampled by 100. Also, we've got matinee hockey on this President's Day. The Ducks and the Panthers coming up on the NHL Network. I would probably lose a lot of bets if I could name 5 Florida Panthers right now. I probably could not do that. I'm not taking any bets with anybody. I'm just telling you, I couldn't do it, but that's the game coming up on the NHL Network. And a reminder, of course, we've got all the region tournaments starting today. Region 3 gets going at the Jamestown Civic Center. Region 4, of course, is always at Devil's Lake. That's where they'll play that one. Region 5 is at Mandan. That's been the home of Shiloh over the last handful of years there. We'll see if anybody can knock them off. Region 6, of course, is the Minot State Dome, where we've seen rugby advance. Region 7, we played at Dickinson Trinity. And Region 8, of course, we played out at Williston State, actually, this time. That's a change there. They had been playing at Newtown. This year, they go to Williston State for the Region 8 tournament. And that all begins today. We start with 64. By the time tonight is over, we'll be down to 32 teams left in girls Class B basketball. So we'll have highlights of all the games of Region 1 coming up tonight on our news at 6 and 10. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Jeff Kolpack, to Jason Brend, and Nate Metcalf. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at InForum.com. Everybody stay safe out there. Slow down. Apparently, we got more coming this week. Thanks so much for watching and listening, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. Have a great Monday, everyone.